This coin-operated viewer is facing south. The instruction manual says to insert 25 centimes and pull the handle while looking inside.
You better keep walking. The streets will flow red once more, a great torrent rushing down Rue de Esperance.
The streets will not flow red with anything.
I'm Cindy the fucking Skull. What else do you want to know? Date of birth, blood type, the last time I was tested for Hep C. And here I was trying to be polite. Just can't win with you pigs.
She's grown frustrated with her work and welcomes the opportunity to challenge authority in other ways. The lieutenant furrows his brow at another one of your eccentricisms. Hatred? Disgust? It's difficult to tell which of the two. The woman on the boat does not notice her step.
That is on her. Someone's got to keep an eye on her.
Probably the Wild Pines rep. We should talk to her. She's a professional negotiator, though. I have the feeling she will be very cooperative while you should take the lead. Ask her unexpected questions, you know? Do your thing. Don't be afraid to...
Good idea, piggies. Run along now. Fuck her shit up good. Impound that boat while you're at it. I'd like to watch her swim back to Ozon. Can't you tell? I'm pacing. I haven't really started it yet. I'm waiting for the right words. Yeah? Thanks. I'm sure the inspiration will...
You've lessened her desire to deface the building.
I ain't no snitch, pigstein. Go forth and forage in someone else's...
Actually, there is a shortage of people who talk to...
We weren't put on this earth to make your life pleasant. Fucko. Watch your back, ungulate.
A striking woman leans against the cabin top. of her sailing boat, smiling as you approach.
Good afternoon, officers. I'm Joyce. Joyce L. Messier. I represent the board. Phaeton, my maiden name. I meant you, the Revachol Citizens Militia, the police. I'm glad to see you here.
She is unfazed by your rudeness.
I was dispatched to handle a strike, not a lynching. Anything I can do to assist the RCM in this matter,
That is good to hear, madame. My colleague will take the lead on this interview. I should let you know that he is recovering from an unusual...
How interesting. I wish you a swift recovery. In the meanwhile, you have my full...
It's hard to get a read on her precise disposition, but she appears helpful.
Why, yes I am. Officer, I assure you I'm a...
The crowns of her teeth are porcelain, white as the boat's hull as she's qualified pleasure craft operator. So charming. Where's the damn license?
I just renewed its safety inspection last month, officers. It is completely seaworthy. In fact, it's taken part in not one, but two.
Actually, you don't. It is a little-known fact among those who police that the Wayfarer Act specifically denies the RCM the authority to demand anyone's operator license.
About the boat? The boat? No. It is...
The word "it" feels strange. A breeze ripples through the sails and tugs at your hair. Below, the sleek, fish-like shape of the hull parts the water. Beneath that, a resounding darkness. You're reminded of something. Or someone.
It's a pleasure craft. A 19-pacer. It also happens to be rated for Category 1 racing. Though these days I mainly use it for business. Okay. How about Cordeleche 19? Why? because it was manufactured in Revachol East by a company called Cordelechi, and its hull is... Why Dolores? Well, it means nothing to me. I think I'll stick with the factory name. But thank you for this. Okay, because it was manufactured... The X something. Thank you for the suggestion. Okay, because it was manufactured... Why Dolores? Well, it means nothing. Okay, because it was manufactured... The X... Oh, I do like the sound of that. Powerful. My sloop? I like it a lot. It's the eel...
I'm enjoying this part of the interview. It has so...
I really do, the lieutenant thinks. Is she thrown off yet? He's looking at the woman, assessing her.
Of course there are. We're on an archipelago. How else are you supposed to get around? I mean, we are on Le Caillou, are we not? We are, and the city of Revachol is on the island of Le Caillou. I haven't seen anyone else drive a souped-up...
Actually, that motor carriage has been specially issued to serve as a patrol. It's for crossing long distances in a greater...
Neither is this. A toy, I mean. It's a machine for crossing long distances in the Bay of Revachol.
She's having a good time arguing against the law. Too good, perhaps.
Good. What we do. I'm afraid I don't speak for Wild Pines as a whole. The Pines' core competency is logistics. Container shipping, freight, that sort of thing. See those airships there, blinking? Those are the shipping side of... And that is the terminal. Another subdivision deals with energy, oil and gas exploration, offshore platforms. I'm not at liberty to discuss the company balance sheet, but I can tell you that last year, the company booked more than 20 billion real in revenue.
A billion?
And to think, there are years when the group books losses in the billions. Wild Pines employs 72,000 people, all of whom have families that depend on their salaries. It is a tremendous responsibility. They started as an exploration and cargo fleet conducting trade between the Samaran and Insulindian Isolas 250 years ago, when Pine ships explored the South Seminese and charted Lormentang on behalf of the suzerain. Centuries of care, deliberation, and madness have gone into this endeavor. Vessels pass through the great unrest to re-emerge with apricots in tow. The logic of the system is totalizing. It's taken everything. They started as an exploration, and centuries of care, deliberation, and madness have gone into this endeavor. You mean aside from being the terminal's legal owners, who are responsible for moving 8% of the world's cargo? We built this district, all the best parts of it. Rue de Saint-Ghislain, with its bastions. The plaza before Martinez was swallowed by the industrial harbour, even before it was part of Revachol, long before Terminal, a company getaway, for a weekend or a summer holiday. Then,
with your help, hopefully, says her warm tone.
Everything. Right up to, but not including, trade secrets. First, you'd have to repeal the Emergencies Act of Trade in Aliments that gives me the right to silence. It's quite the opposite. Good luck is only kept in place by the vested interests of half the civilized world.
What the ma'am means is that the Emergencies Act and the RCM both get their authority from the coalition government.
But I am derailing us. You wanted to know about the strike. I believe the official title is Senior Labor Negotiator. In practice, I'm a grocery clerk. I relay the...
And how are the talks going?
They're not. That's the problem. The union stopped all negotiations a week. Now they won't even let me into the harbour. There's a 2-meter-20 racist behemoth blocking the gates. What can I say? The union employs a giant covered in tattoos. A racist giant. I guess that's part of their big tent organization now. Let's say I was not making the kind of
And when did you?
I arrived 3 weeks ago. Yes, in the middle of February. The bay was still partially frozen then. I prefer to do these things on site, like the RCM.
But the strike began in December.
I wasn't the original negotiator here. I took over after Mr. Gaumont hit a wall with Mr. Clare, the union boss. Mr. Clare refused to speak with Gaumont despite concessions he'd granted the union in prior negotiations.
This isn't the first time the union has gone on strike?
Heavens no. There have been 2 prior strikes. Both times the union won significant concessions, including overtime pay and a medical plan. This time their demands are more, I guess you could say, aggressive. There are leaflets everywhere, and banners. Every worker, a member of the board. Fortunately, they explained it. Every time the Wild Pines group makes a decision about anything, just so you understand, this is but one of 22 terminals owned by Wild Pines. Essentially, not only are they kings of the company, they are also kings of the 72,000 employees of Wild Pines Group. That may well be. It's not up to me to decide who is king, but as negotiations go, I'm not sure. Naturally, I assume that was just their opening position, a hard-nosed tactic with a side of mockery. But there's been no follow. And now, people are getting lynched, I hear. Behind the whirling in rags, a disastrous situation.
Excuse me, from whom did you hear about this lynch?
I first heard it from the bowyer at the gates, the one whose very name advertises his aversion to work. I think he said it was, "Call me mañana."
This checks out.
The scabs? You mean the huddled masses of Jamrock? If they were organized by Wild Pines or its affiliates, then it would be a company secret. I could not share it with you. Mr. Clare told him to... Fuck off, midget. Gaumont is short of stature, you see. Keep in mind, this is a negotiator Mr. Clare has worked with before, and who was more than fair with him and the...
Sounds like usual aggressive posturing.
Everard Clare is a man of the utmost integrity. If you can say one thing about him, it's that he ought. Of course not. Everard is fantastically corrupt. I imagine he has a thick, viscous goo where you and I have blood. He is the most corrupt individual I have ever seen, and I deal with men like him for a living. If there is anyone more venal, more irredeemably nepotistic, then it's his twin brother, Edgar. Yes, Edgar looks exactly like his brother, except for that lazy eye. He also talks exactly like Everard does, and when one's term as foreman is up, the other. It's how they circumvent the term limits, you see, with a funny little switcheroo. While in office, they've embezzled God knows how much of their workers' dues. The Débardeurs Union was once a perfectly normal institution. Organised labour at its best, as they say. Then something happened in the local chapter elections. The brothers Clare came and transformed it into a
mob. The Débardeurs are a crime syndicate. Sad as it may be, I suspect will be...
Refreshingly honest, officer. The company has tried appeasing in the past, but I'm afraid our concessions have only emboldened... And your opinion, detective, if I may ask? I'm a curious and talkative person, you see. Would you say the Débardeurs Union is... Indeed. And a hungry one. Sadly, Wild Pines have cooperated with what amounts to a crime syndicate for two. I'm glad you asked. There was a woman, the previous forewoman of the uni...
Disappear.
Yes. On the last day of the local chapter elections, her daughter phoned in and said she wasn't running anymore. Or coming to work. Ever. End of story. Indeed. The company suspects foul... The point of the presentation is, these kinds of things happen around the...
Thank you for your concern, ma'am. We'll be just fine.
Of course. How else can I help? Quite a few things, I'm afraid. The information I'm to share with you includes sensitive trade secrets. For the sake of my employer, I have to ask for your names and badge numbers.
Of course, ma'am. We should have introduced ourselves. I am Lieutenant Kitsuragi from Precinct 50, and this is my colleague from Precinct 41. I'm afraid he doesn't have his badge at the moment. I hope...
How curious. Why is that, Detective?
Awkwardness washes over the conversation. The woman doesn't like this turn of events.
I see. So, are you saying you lost your badge during the course of this episode? I can't hear you, darling. Speak up, please. Oh, dear. I suppose...
As I said, ma'am, his technique may be very unconventional, but he...
Of course, I sympathize. But I'm afraid I simply can't share anything more until I've seen that badge.
Hang on. She's a professional negotiator. She should be open to some sort of mutually beneficial arrangement. She's a negotiator. Just float a favor at her. Insinuates.
I will be frank with you. If I'm going to break protocol, I need to be able to justify it to my superiors. They're going to want to...
You're in, but expect her to drive a hard bargain.
Reports from inside Terminal B suggest it's a hub for the local drug trade. This is an open secret in Martinez.
They're profiting from this trade.
The company has tried looking into this matter before, to no avail. Perhaps someone with your authority and resources might turn over the right stones. Or you can recover your badge. Though if I may be blunt with you, it sounds like that may be a lost cause.
Detective, a word in private before we continue.
Hey. Psst. Yes, you. Word on the street is you're ready to start building communism again. You keep saying things like, down with the bourgeoisie, eat the rich, sodomize the landowners, impale all people who have more than 25 real in their pockets. Literally murder all human beings regardless of their political beliefs. That kind of stuff. Oh yes, the mask of ambivalence. Don't deny it. You're about to rip it off and reveal the monstrous seven-eyed lamb of global... Everyone can see that. So tell me, do you have any questions before we fire up the big communism builder? Or do we get right down to it? Oh yeah, get the firing squads and the animal wagons ready.
detective. Honestly, I was expecting you to use your unorthodox technique to keep her off balance, and not volunteer us to be her henchman. This woman is running circles around us. She might have known about your misplaced badge all along, or she's simply another...
He doesn't let it show, but there is a limit to how much the consequences of your unprofessional behavior can cost the investigation.
Oh, that would be fantastic, but do we have the time? The world is large and you could request a new one from your station, but that would literally take months. No. If there is reasonable suspicion, we must investigate. Otherwise, she could claim we are siding with the Union. What I propose is, we ask her, then we investigate, briefly. But do not share the outcome of this investigation with her. We tell her it's done and demand for her information on the lynching. It would not hurt if you tried more in the future, yes.
You're back. Good. What can I help you with? It's quite straightforward. Someone is using Terminal B to smuggle raw ingredients from the Samaran Isla into Revachol with the Union's blessing. Wild pine...
Ingredients for what?
Meth and dextroamphetamine, GBL and various synthetic psychedelics. Honestly, it might be quicker to say what you can't make from the stuff. Yes. After they clear the terminal, we lose track. The actual production is taking place at various sites in and around Jamrock Quarter, north of here.
Wild Pine seems to be well apprised of the local drug trade, ma'am. Do you mean to say the Union also produces the product?
We're in logistics. It's our business to know. And no. As far as the company knows, the Union does not produce it. They transport the ingredient, yes, but you won't get anything out of Evrat and the Dockworkers Union. Still, every chain has its weak link. Unlikely, officer. I'm talking about the lorries. Once the ingredients reach Jamrock, they're distributed to a network of local manufacturers, well beyond our grasp. But in transit, they may be vulnerable. Perhaps you've noticed that a number of lorries are tangled in a traffic jam at the roundabout just now. Interview the drivers who are still hanging about. I'll be explicit. If you find this driver...
You'll be indebted to her, in a way. But one step ahead of the Union in another.
How do you think they're financing this strike? There are thousands of
There was a shakedown of local businesses preceding the strike. Many were squeezed to bankruptcy to fund it.
With all due respect to these desert cacti, the contents of a few cash registers cannot provide for 2,000 men. The local businesses can scarcely provide for themselves. Precisely. Smuggled out of that very gate at night, most likely, then loaded onto lorries and driven to Jamrock. You simply need to find one driver.
It sounds like she tried looking into it herself, but she's clearly not the type your typical lorryman would confide in.
No. We asked East Motor Track to raise the drawbridge. The road company is a partner of one of our subsidiaries. This is a limited time opportunity. Once the complaint has been processed by the Trade Committee, they'll have no choice. Thousands of litres of raw ingredients will pour onto the streets of Revachol. Not the East.
Well, at least this so...
What is that, Lieutenant?
Why I had to call East Motor Tract and beg them to open a drawbridge for me. I'd wonder since...
I am sorry for the inconvenience, Lieutenant. We did.
We know the company has launched its own probe into the Union's...
Well, here's your chance, officers. Yes? Excellent. According to my reports, there are at least 3 lorry drivers lingering near the... It may come to nothing, or it may just blow the case wide open. In the meantime, let me know if there's any other way.
Is what you want to say. Look at that lady. Take a well-kempt, yet tastefully short bob of dark hair, while dull orange pearls hang from her. Now look at you. You you're poor as balls. You can't ask this person for money. You're too... You think your little communism protects you from this feeling? Oh God, the lieutenant is here too.
As I was saying, if there's any way I may be of assistance, please don't hesitate to ask.
Voila. Really put your back into it. Yell it from the top of your lungs.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Why, yes, I am rich. How much money do you...
She's surprisingly nonchalant about this. Could it be that she somehow knows more about your predicament than she's letting on?
Excuse me, sir. I don't have $1 billion real. That was the annual revenue of the... Try again, dear. A little... Come now. Nobody carry... And even if I did, I still would not give you 10,000 real. I would rather... It is. Fast and I like high-fidelity anything. That's a good sum. Not too small. Not fantastically large.
She removes a few notes and hands them to you. Whoa. Did you see how easy that was? Ask her for more. Toot toot. Trained to...
This may seem like odd behavior for a police officer, ma'am, but it's unusual
It's all right, Lieutenant. I really did bring as little cash with me as possible to avoid attention. So, I hope I didn't just bribe you, officer. It may not be technically illegal under the Emergency Act, but still...
You're right, ma'am, that donations are permitted under the Emergency Act, unseemly as it may be.
Which he most certainly will do. Now, how else can I help the RCM today? Besides, of course, detect...
Yes? What do you want to know? I'm afraid you and I are pawns in a...
His disdain is clear. This man...
You don't know? I assumed you were in on it. Better still than an imbecile cop-off. It's just stupidity. We shouldn't waste any more time on it. If you want my take, ask me after we've inspected the victim. Later. Was there anything... Maybe you can... Do you want me to brief you? 3 days ago, the RCM Emergencies Desk received a report about a security guard who was found hanged in Martinez. An anonymous caller said there was a dead body behind the Whirling in Rags hostel cafeteria. During that time, the victim had been stripped of his belongings. The caller did not identify him, but used the word lynching. There is an ongoing labor dispute between the local dock workers and the logistics company Wild Pines. I was told we should approach the death as part of this dispute. They didn't identify themselves in any way. The tone was muffled using a device of some sort. There's a strong prejudice against involving the RCM in what's seen as union matters. The dock workers' union is the de facto police in Martinez. Now it appears that that's us, the Revachol Citizens Militia. We're the police in this city. That's right. No, it's not a particularly mysterious case. The deceased is a security guard for a corporation involved in a labor dispute. It doesn't take a DeLorean polymath to put the pieces together. I just don't see the case getting more mysterious than that.
He is glad and surprised to see an officer who can appreciate the less than spectacular.
Do you know the feeling when you've begun filling in a crossword, but some of your answers don't quite seem to fit? It will turn into quite the puzzle yet, I'm afraid. Good. What do you want to know? You mean like a brief? Do you want me to brief you? There's no 3 days ago, during that, a security guard. Just to be clear. Good. Me? I don't see how my life is pertinent to the investigation. That's a fair point. All right, for the good of the... That's correct.
That makes him a Beano-clad, completely uncopped material, if you say so yourself.
Are they? They are mostly...
You could use a good, normal beer yourself.
That's because I'm half Seolite, or quarter. My father's father was from Seoul. So was my grandmother, but from my mother's side. It's not an interesting thing. It's a part of the world, officer. A geopolitical entity, and a geographic division. I told you it wouldn't be interesting. You're barking up the wrong tree. I don't speak a word of Seolite. I've never met either one of my grandparents.
He's glad to have shut down your question.
No.
The lieutenant nods.
What do you mean? I have no idea what you're talking about. I can't say that it does, no. When I need...
The lieutenant produces his small blue notebook, and that's where his conversations with himself take place. You're super lucid, yet psychedelic. You don't need office supplies to connect to your nervous system. You're special.
Good. Let's change the subject. Excuse me? You have a distinctive way of walking. If I were to walk in front of you, I hope you don't take this the wrong way. It's just a collegial observation. In the 57th, we call it the jamrock. They say it's a scene-clearing technique developed by one of your lieutenants for gathering evidence. It's erratic, yet thorough. Prioritizes containers. I'm sure you don't. It's just a stupid interdepartmental thing. I'm making...
Passing along frivolous interdepartmental stereotypes is not usually his oeuvre. He regrets bringing it up. This is a wall on the side of an apartment building. sturdy metal door guards the southwest entrance to the apartment building. It's locked. The door rattles against your knuckles, but there's no response. The door rattles again, but this time you hear an elderly woman's voice calling out from inside.
Stop banging on the door! I'm not letting any more strangers inside. Doesn't matter who I am. Now, the police. Everyone knows the police don't come round here. No, I already told you. I'll go check the backyard door. Maybe someone there will.
Madame, I assure you, we are real police officers.
There is no reply. Just faint, sweeping sounds.
Smoke.
There must be another way into the building.
Son, you've really let yourself go. It's a disgrace. But Coach Physical Instrument is going to get you back in prime condition, even if it takes 1,000,000 push-ups. Does a master swordsman insult his own blade? No. I'm going to turn you into an athlete. It's going to take blood, sweat, piss, and tears. But when I'm done with you, boy, you will be a master athlete. Behold, world. Here walks a sportsman